Welcome to Virtual Events Demystified. Advanced Events is here to lead the charge as the masses adopt virtual engagements. So many clients have questions, so we thought show and tell installments will best explain it. This installment, we're diving into virtual storytelling. So if a picture says 1,000 words, what does a blooper have to say? Now, bloopers may be my favorite part of a movie to watch, but is that really how I want to lead my corporate communications? Not exactly. Which is why I have a trusted partner in Elin Barton in White Knight Productions. Elin's team makes me look good when all I really am is a blooper in real life. So you don't believe me? Take a look at my own blooper and what a little post-editing can do for your reputation and, of course, damage control. It's okay to laugh.
Actually, one of my favorite ones was the grassroots at home videography shoot, where the message. We're going to end that real quick. Hold on. How do I? Ooh. Cut. All right, let me try that again. And thank you for your time, and know that we are here to help produce your virtual results that matter. Thanks.
Elin, you make everything look and sound that much better.
Thanks, Rachel. You know, at White Knight, that's what we do, and we take that very seriously. We feel like we have a responsibility to our clients to show them off in the best light. And a lot of people are just not comfortable on camera, you know, unless you're a professional anchor or a YouTuber or someone who's speaking a lot in front of a camera. Most people, or many people, freeze up and they don't know where to look. They don't know what to say. It's very awkward. It can be very awkward. And that's why it's important to work with somebody who you trust, who can give you feedback and who can give you confidence that when they tell you they've got it and you've done that part well, we can move on. You know, you want somebody that you can work with like that you trust and that you know is going to show you off in your best light.
It's so true. I'm one of those people who hates the camera, but I'm so committed to showing our clients it isn't as scary as it sounds, that I'm doing it with your help. And it's your commitment to that storytelling that gives me confidence. It's not about me, it's about the story. And so, speaking of stories, this episode was inspired by our conversation at the beginning of quarantine about the living room concerts, and that they were gaining a lot of attention and promoted to appear like all those big name artists were live from their iPhones, from their own living rooms. The reality was a bit different. The trained eye knows that there were cutaways to the hands or the close-ups of the instrument, or the same two people were shown in a close-up but then across the room, and all those different angles. And so we were talking that it was pre-produced and it was post-edited, but as an audience, we chose to believe that it was a live performance at that moment, and that these big name artists were in their own living room having that equalized quarantine experience.
Yeah, you know, that's exactly what happened. And we're also used to watching television shows or watching professionally produced content that we're accustomed to seeing that, so accustomed to it that many people probably didn't even notice it and felt like it was live because we were still having that live experience, even though the footage was polished and it was edited, and the bloopers, if they were left in, it was intentional. So I think that's really important to note, that you can have that feeling of a live event experience with pre-recorded material. And in fact, it's advisable. You might have also noticed or assumed, as I did, that much of the footage was actually recorded on phones or iPads and devices like that. And I think that's really interesting. You know, technology has come so far, and the cameras on those devices are actually really good. I have a newer iPhone. It can record in 4K. It's got a great camera. And, you know, when used properly, it can be hard to distinguish between some of the images that I sometimes can get from my iPhone and what you can get from a professional grade camera. You know, they're really pretty good. What's interesting to me is the challenge of taking that technology and marrying it with professionals who know how to craft a story, because having the technology on its own really isn't enough. You still need to have somebody that understands how to take those elements and weave them into a story. You still need to have somebody that knows how to edit things, knows where to insert graphics, knows enough not to use those really tacky transitions, over and over again in a video, like you see a lot of amateur people doing. That might be the look you're going for, but it really might not be if you're trying to create a professional video. So, I think it's kind of like if you want to be like an artist or something, and someone just hands you a nice canvas and some really expensive paints and a really expensive, great quality paintbrush. It doesn't mean you can just pick that all up and paint a masterpiece. You're still going to have to learn the basics and go through the time and investment of, maybe some lessons or some time, certainly, to practice your craft. And that's what the professionals in our world, in the video world, have spent years and years honing those skills and knowing how to weave those stories. So if you take that and you marry it with that technology, you have a winning combination.
I absolutely agree. Telling a story is an art. And I completely understand why it's good to have the art, but that doesn't necessarily address why it's important. From a business perspective, why is telling a good story important?
Well, it's so important because hopefully when you're making a video, most of the time when you're making a video, you're not just doing it for the fun of it. Most of the time you have some kind of goal in mind. You want people to buy something or do something or remember something or feel something. There's some goal that you have. And when a video is well crafted, it really can lead the audience to taking action and to doing that thing that you want them to do. And you can get results very quickly if the video is well crafted and then used correctly. Because that is, that's the other part, is you have to get it out to the right audience. And let me give you an example. Last year, we got hired by a college to engage their alumni and to get them to, make donations and be more active in the alumni community. So this particular college had a goal. They wanted to raise $25 million in 3 years. And they had some ideas of how to do it, but they didn't know exactly what stories to tell or how to tell them. So they brought our team in and they started talking about what their goals were. And we were able to work with them, listen to their goals, go back and formulate a plan, which they allowed us to implement. And they agreed that we were, telling the right stories. So they let us go and tell those stories. And when they launched their campaign, they actually raised 75% of their goal, not in 3 years, but in 3 months. It was quite incredible. They raised $18.3 million in 3 months. And they said that a big part of the reason was that they had the tools, they had the videos, and the videos hit the right chord. They were emotional enough, and they told stories that were compelling enough to people that they spurred them to action. They caused them to want to take action. And that's, I think, a really good example of the power and the magic of a good video. So you need to figure out what the goal is and then how you're going to, get your audience there.
Let's face it, money doesn't lie. It even helps convince the skeptics. So let's get tactical for a minute. What kind of support are you offering new or differently than you did before?
Rachel, so many opportunities have come up as technology has evolved and gotten better. One of the things that we're offering now that we weren't able to offer before because it didn't exist is called remote video capture. And remote video capture is something that I'm really excited about. It allows us to use patented software to work with our clients or the person being filmed and to be with them virtually, not to be in the room with them in person, but to be there virtually. So we are there helping them set up the equipment, advising them on how to frame the shot, and actually hitting record and hitting stop and checking the files with them. And then we upload the files and edit them. The person really has to do very little except connect to the room, the virtual room. So that is cool technology. I'm really excited about it. The quality is very good. It's limited only by the device that the person's using. So if they're using a device with a 4K camera, you're going to get 4K, really crisp video. If it's a high definition camera, 1080, you're going to get that. And that's more than, acceptable for most uses on the internet. So it looks really good. A lot of times if you look at Zoom recordings, they tend to be kind of grainy and low resolution. That doesn't happen with the virtual recording. So that I'm really excited about. We also work with people who actually record their own video. Like sometimes they're doing a presentation for an event or something, and they want to record their whole presentation, and then they just want it polished up a little bit. So, sometimes they want somebody to go through and do some quality control, get rid of the awkward pauses or the ums and ahs, and just clean it up. On those videos, quite frequently, we'll add a nice intro, either a sequence or an intro graphic and an end card, a nice, identifying lower third so we can see who's talking. And the graphics, some people want their graphics animated, a little bit more sophisticated than you can get on a regular PowerPoint or something. So we're able to take, that provided footage and then just give it a little extra something to have a nice professional polish. So that's another way that we work with people today and, do it a little differently than maybe traditional video production.
Which is interesting because as we're doing our show and tell installments, we're looking at all of the different ways of incorporating different tools each time. The blooper in the beginning of this was all quality control cleanup, and we saw what was being taken out and said, let's use that too. Certainly the remote video capture is a different product that we're going to be showcasing here shortly. And one of my favorite benefits of what you're doing right now is that B-roll footage. And that's more because from a content perspective, what we're coaching on is that we need some B-roll for that adult learning mind. The recipient's mind has to catch up with the thought. And when you break that eye contact or you break that screen with a different visual, it actually reinforces that message absorption. So yes, this is all completely an artful craft. We have to know when to use B-roll, when to use audio emphasis, and all of the tools that are in your repertoire. So you also mentioned the virtual studio, and that's a bit difficult of a concept for many to grasp still. How are you explaining that methodology matters when people have access to those other tools? Like they have an iPhone. You've told them it's a great 4K camera, but it's still not enough. It's still not that professional corporate quality that we're talking about here.
Absolutely. Before I jump into that, I want to say something about the B-roll, because you mentioned the B-roll, and that is like the action shots. Like when you watch a video and you see those action shots, you might hear somebody speaking and you don't see them on the screen. You see, something else is happening. And I don't want to jump over this because it's important. And video is a multi-sensory platform. You hear it and you see it, and it isn't just flat like reading a book. You have all these different things going on. You're hearing and you're seeing. And the final thing that people need to know about B-roll is it's a helpful tool for editors to have the option to include B-roll in, because if you don't have it and you just have what we refer to as a talking head, which is kind of like what you're looking at now with me and Rachel. But if you edit us without anything to cover it up, you end up with like a lot of these like jerky, weird edits, which I'm sure you've seen before, because they're maybe cutting out phrases or words. If you have B-roll, you don't even really notice if they've done that.
So you'd also mentioned the concept of a virtual studio, and that's still a bit of a difficult concept for people to grasp. Are you explaining that methodology matters when people have access to other tools? So for example, we mentioned you have a 4K camera on your iPhone. When it goes into the virtual studio, how are you addressing that?
Well, it's always good to start with good technology. Like, yes, you want a crisp, clear picture. You want good audio. It's very, very important. But just because you have those things doesn't mean that you know how to weave the story together. It doesn't mean that you know how to edit those pieces together in a way that is going to be compelling for your audience. So, I would say that it kind of gets back to that analogy of the artist. Just because you're given the tools, it doesn't necessarily mean that you've suddenly magically become that artist. You have to put in the time to become that. And many people don't have the time, so that's why they hire professionals to help them. We also find that a lot of people, like I said at the beginning, they're just not comfortable speaking into a void when they're trying to film themselves or something. They need that feedback from another person. Even if that person isn't in the room with them, they're still working together and developing some kind of level of trust where that person is saying, yes, that looks good, or move that light. We did it at the beginning of this video. We were saying, is this framing good? What do you think? It's really hard to do it by yourself, and so it gives people that confidence that someone else who knows what they're talking about is helping them through the process.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what you do, Ellen, for my clients. You get to the heart of the message and then tell that compelling story so that we're getting to the intended result. Attention span is at a premium, and telling a compelling story is the best tool for building that connection. I know that as people look back on this installment, what they're going to talk about is that White Knight Productions took that fundraising cycle from 3 years to 3 months. That's the compelling story. And of course, with that, we're going to honor our promise to be quick and informational. We are here for further conversations at any time. You can reach out to Ellen or I at request@advancedevents.net. Thank you for your time. Know that we are here to help produce your virtual results that matter.
Thank you.
Have it recorded, and then when it plays back, if it makes sense and flows with the presentation, included. If not,
especially if they put B-roll over me. Yeah. Yeah.
Put that one on there.
I will. Okay.
Oh, that's good.
My thought, and then I'll talk about.
That's got to go into our blooper roll.